welcome back to another episode of Craig's Custom Cooking. For supper tomorrow night, we're going to have flank steak for supper. I have a flank steak here. I'm going to show you how to marinate it, put it in the refrigerator, and then tomorrow night for supper, I'll show you how to grill it on the grill outside. So come with me and I'll show you the process. Alright, here we are. This is our flank steak. I want to show you certain things about this steak. If you look, I'll zoom in here so you can see this when I post the video. But you can see the grain of this steak. It runs this way. So we're going to marinate it, but when we cut it to eat it, we're going to cut it with the grain this way and then slice it across the grain. A lot of people say flank steak is tough and chewy. If you marinate it properly, you tenderize the meat, and you slice it properly, and if it's cooked properly, it's a very tender piece of meat. It should not ever be chewy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my Jacquard meat tenderizer. This has 48 little knives that come out. And I'm just gonna tenderize the whole piece of meat. The more holes you get in here, the more it's going to absorb the marinade inside of the meat. So there's that side. Let me do this side. Thicker part, I'll put more holes in. And then the good thing about the Jacquard, if you've watched my show before, you know this. You push over on this little blue tab, take the insert out, put these both in the dishwasher. So it's very easy to clean. If it doesn't come apart like this, it's really hard to keep these clean. And then people don't use these. Right now I'm going to make the marinade that goes on the steak. So here I have 6 cloves of garlic. We're just going to take our knife, and we're just going to smash them. We're not going to mince them. That's all we're going to do to them. Take them and we're going to put them in our bowl. Now, to this, I use these little ramekins. They hold exactly 4 tablespoons. So it's really easy to measure out what you need if you're doing tablespoons. I have glass ones that are bigger, but these are just much easier. We're going to add 1/4 tablespoon or 1/4 cup of olive oil, 1/4 cup of lemon juice, 1/4 cup of light soy sauce, 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, and then 4 tablespoons of packed brown sugar. And that's our marinade for on the meat. So we're going to break this sugar up. Just going to mix this all up really good. Now, what I do is, if you guys have ever seen olive oil in something, and I always reuse my pickle jars, everything, the olive oil is going to settle to the top. But if you put it in a jar, and you seal it, and you shake it for about a minute, everything in this jar will emulsify. So it will not separate when you put it on for your marinade. So I'll bring you back after I shake this. Good. Alright. I have my oval lasagna pan. I'm going to take my flank steak and drop it in my pan. Make sure it's flat. I'm going to take my emulsified marinade with the garlic cloves in it, and we're going to dump that on top of the steak. pair of tongs. You just want to pick the steak up to make sure the marinade runs underneath of it. And as you can see, everything is combined. The oil didn't separate out, and it'll stay that way. So now I'm going to cover this with saran wrap. This is going to go in the refrigerator till tomorrow night, till I'm ready to cook it on the grill. Now I will go down every couple hours and I will flip it over, so both sides are submerged in the marinade. This should be a very, very tender piece of meat when we cook it tomorrow night on the grill. Alright, here's my flank steak that I took out of the refrigerator. It's been marinating for 24 hours. I've flipped it several times. I'm just going to set it aside and let it come up to room temperature. In the meantime, we're going to slice this flank and we're going to use it in a sandwich. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to get it ready for the sandwich. We're going to actually make a dressing that's going to go on our sandwich. Alright, so in my blender, I'm going to use half a cup of sour cream. Alright, and 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. 2 tablespoons of horseradish. 1/2 tablespoon or 1/2 teaspoon of vinegar. I'm actually using rice vinegar tonight. Then 1 tablespoon of capers. Some white pepper. Now the recipe calls for salt, but I'm not going to put any salt in it because the capers will be very salty as it is. Alright, now I'm just going to mix it. Pardon the noise. Get a small bowl to put it into. This is what we're going to use on our sandwich. I got my grill going. I'm trying out a new copper mat that goes on top of your grill, so it'll keep your grill grates clean, but there's a million little holes in it, so the heat and stuff can still come up through it. So what I did is I took my flank steak and I put it on paper towels and I dried it. And then I took my meat probe and I put it in the thickest part of the meat. It's reading 59 degrees now. And I'm going to close my grill. We want to get the center of this steak up to 125 degrees. So I'm going to keep an eye on it. It's not going to take long. It's a very thin steak. It'll cook very quickly. So just bear with me. It's going to take about maybe 10 minutes. So we'll keep an eye on it and I'll bring you back. Alright, it's already up to 72 degrees. See all the juice coming out of it. I'm going to take it. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to keep an eye on it. just reached 100 degrees. I'm going to flip it back over again. Flip my temperature probe around. And you'll see how the steak, it swells up in the middle once it cooks. It shrunk in length and width, but it swelled up in thickness. So we're going to let it go. Alright, it's at 111 degrees. I'll flip it one more time. Alright, it's reading 120 on my meat probe, but I'm going to probe it with a separate, just to make sure that it's reading the right amount.
Sorry, I bought the wrong thing.
121, 120, 127. It's right there. So we're going to pull it off. I'm going to put it on my cutting board. We're going to take it inside. We're going to let it rest. Alright, it's been 10 minutes. But this is rested on my cutting board. See all the juices that come out of it. But the juices are still inside. What we're going to do, you've seen me use this before. This is my duck carving knife. We're going to cut the steak down the middle. We look inside, it's a medium rare. So I'm going to cut this half into quarters. And then we're going to slice this on an angle. Very thin. Now what we're doing, we're cutting across the grain. That's what makes this cut of steak tender. This cut of steak comes off the belly of a cow, between the rib cage and the hind quarters. This muscle is constantly in use when they move, turn sideways, whatever they do. So that's why if this isn't cooked right, it can be very, very tough. Now what I did want to show you about a flank steak is this is medium rare in the middle. But because this steak is different thicknesses, if you like it medium and you cut your pieces off of this end of the steak, and this is closer to medium. Alright, here's my steak I got sliced up that we're going to put on the sub rolls. As you can see, it's very, very thin. It's almost paper thin. That's the way you want it. That's when it's the most tender. So let me get everything else ready and I'll show you. Alright, so I have my frying pan on here. What I'm going to do is pick up my piles of steak. I'm going to arrange them in my pan. Turn that to medium heat. This is going to remind you of a Philly cheesesteak, but it's not a Philly cheesesteak. A Philly cheesesteak is not made out of flank steak. So we're going to put these just like they're going to go on the hoagie roll. White American cheese on top. this one, well, that's yellow American cheese. On this one, I'm going to put white American cheese. The only reason is I ran out of yellow American cheese. So we're going to turn this down. Actually, I'm going to go between medium and low. All we're going to do is melt this cheese. Alright, I put the horseradish dressing on mine. My wife's going to put her amount on hers. She probably won't like as much as I do.
Just a thin layer. Thank you. Okay, looks good.
Alright. Alright, now I'm going to take my flank steak. I'm going to lay it out on our sub roll. Or hoagie roll, it is actually. This one goes on my wife's. Alright, now I'm going to take some cheese, some lettuce. We're going to put it on top. Both of them. My wife likes the spinach, so that's why there's spinach on hers. And then I got really small tomatoes. We're going to put 3 or 4 tomato slices on each sandwich. That's it. I'm going to close these up. We'll see you at the table.